Hi, welcome back to another episode of the 4D Recruitment Method podcast with me, Jeremy Snell. Today's episode is all about building campaigns. I am a big fan of a good quality campaign, and I think there are far more opportunities out there to build campaigns than many recruiters realize. That moment that you get briefed, right? Whether it's a new client, an existing customer, and they go, hey, here's a job. It's a nice job. It's a good job. I'll answer any questions that you've got about it. Anything that you need to know to help you to be able to fill it, ask. So you get engaged in that conversation. You talk about the goal, the mission, the type of human being that they would like to employ, where they're likely to come from, all of that kind of stuff, right? The job qualification piece, plus more, because we're 4D, right? And as you do plus more, and you look at all of the information that you have, you can feel it in your jellies. I'm so going to fill this. And because you can feel it in your jellies and you know that you're going to be able to fill it because you know that you're good, temptation can sometimes get the better of us. And we allow excitement to kick in and we start to do some outreach. And before you know it, we're going through the database, we're pinging messages to people on LinkedIn, we're off and away, we're into dialogue, we're starting to create meetings with candidates to do vetting and interviewing, and we can feel the buzz, right? We can feel the endorphins going through our bloodstream. We can feel that dopamine of motivation as we're getting hit after hit. But sometimes we get like 6 days into it after all of this activity, and we start to feel like we're drawing a blank. We've lost some of the momentum, the original sources that we were looking at seem to have gone dry. And although we may have a couple of people who we think are good, we know that there are more out there. We know that there may even be better. And we have to slow down and we have to rethink. We may have to redraw the lines. We may even realize at some point, I've almost forgotten what I'm looking for because I've got so into it. And we go back to the briefing and realize that we're 2 degrees off course. And being 2 degrees off course for 3 days has now put us 25 miles away from the destination. So we have to bring ourselves back on target. This is why a campaign can be so much more powerful if we begin every new role and treat it as a campaign. And to treat it as a campaign means the moment that we've finished our briefing, we need to make sure that we know where we're going to look, what we're going to look for, how we're going to recognize it, how we intend to engage with them, what we're going to do to be able to gather momentum, and think about how we're going to use the collateral that we've got at our fingertips to start to be able to create something that has more longevity to it, so that we've got a true campaign that could last for the next 2 weeks to ensure that we maximize on the coverage of the market. So I hope everyone's with me in the way that I'm describing that. Because when we slow down a little bit before we then go to market, we can be more thoughtful. And it takes me back to when I first got into executive search. And I was coached, this is how we manage a campaign. That moment that you've been briefed, that moment that we've sent the invoice for the first stage retainer, we can feel the success of winning this new client. We now need to make sure that we deliver. And to make sure we deliver, we build a campaign. And what we used to build in our campaigns would help to ensure that we stayed on the right path, would help to ensure that people didn't slip through the net, would help to ensure that the more slippery individuals who we couldn't get hold of, we did more to be able to get their attention and be in front of them. And learning how to manage those campaigns was such a foundation stone for me that even when I left that executive search firm and I went into what some may describe as being a little more generalist or a bit more typical agency environment, I took with me and never let go of many of those traits and tactics and habits that had been ingrained into me in exec search, because they were just as powerful when I was working on a contingent job against 2 other agencies as they were when I was mandated and instructed as the retained partner on the exec role that I'd just picked up in Europe. And the essence of the campaign was all about command, staying in command of your process. When you have total command over your process, you know what you're doing, when you're doing, and how you're going to do it, you're far more likely to arrive at a point of success at an agreed deadline. And we would work towards a definite deadline. This is the deadline internally where we need to make sure that we've delivered this part of the campaign. It's why in the 4D recruitment method, I break everything down into sprints, so that when you embark on a sprint, you start a sprint knowing when the sprint is intended to finish. So if I'm going on a 5-day sprint to help me to be able to build out my campaign and to get my outreach work started, I've got 5 days to be able to do the heavy lifting, all of the hard work. And if I invest the energy in those 5 days to do the sprint effectively, I can then go into the next sprint prepared, ready, and fully equipped with everything that I need. So the concept of the campaign, like the beginning of that campaign, as you begin that first sprint to look at what do I actually need to achieve here and when do I need to achieve it by? And you look at the collateral that you have. So we have an engaged client. We have a well-structured brief, which gives us full insight as to why someone would join this organization. We've got a coherent job description that also sits alongside a mission that the candidate is going to go on. So we can see exactly how they're going to be measured. The candidate knows exactly what's expected of them, what they need to be able to deliver in their first 90 days, in their subsequent 6 months, and what they need to become in 12 months' time. We have everything that we need to start to be able to really pull the right levers, to press the right buttons with the people that we reach out to. And if we rush into things too quickly, we may have all of this collateral and we don't particularly use it because we're off selling a job, and we might miss the opportunity to be able to get it properly aligned to the person's expectations. And the person who, with a bit more thought, may have said, I want to consider this, unfortunately decides to ignore it. So to start your campaigns well, get your marketing right. Create the tone of voice that represents the business that you are working on behalf of. How do they wish to be presented? How are we going to engage people who are going to be the right fit for their organization, that can do the job? Put together your script. And I know some of you will go, oh, God, he said script. I love a script. You should love a script. When you know this is everything that is the essence as to why someone should be interested in this job, and you package it into a script so that you can deliver it in less than 60 seconds. And it sounds non-scripted because you've invested the time and the energy to create the script, to craft the language, to practice it out loud, so that by the time you say it for the first time to a candidate, you're likely to be saying it for the 10th time. Like this was the thing in the exec search firm. Every time we worked on a new assignment, create your script into the boardroom, role play, role play, role play, role play. We're going to be reaching out to people where you can only get one first impression. And if you only get one first impression and you don't manage to communicate to them clearly what makes this a sticky role for them, they may end up saying no when you deserved a yes. So the script that you create helps you to be able to think about, how am I going to say this? How am I going to share this? How do I deliver it with impact? How do I make it something that creates curiosity and enticement? Once you've created your script, you can then create your templates. The templates are the messages that you'll be sending. The templates that you'll be using for the messages on LinkedIn. The templates that you'll be using on email. how you're going to start to follow those things up so that you have a sequence of emails that they receive: email 1, email 2, email 3, each of which builds upon the previous, creating more and more momentum around those core messages. And I know from the work that I've done with multiple recruiters, multiple recruitment businesses, when you start to craft good quality sequences that you can send on email, the best candidates respond to the third and the fourth message. I don't know why. I don't know what the psychology is behind it, but in every marketplace that I've helped people to be able to build out those sequences, message 3, message 4 create the best response. And when we take message 3 and message 4 and we make them message 1 and message 2, it doesn't have the same impact. So when you build your campaign and you start to look at, these are the 100 contenders that I'm going to reach out to. This is first interaction, second interaction, third interaction, fourth interaction, fifth interaction, sixth interaction, seventh interaction. These are the channels that I'm going to use. This is the media I'm going to use. These are the power words that I feel create the impression that the client will want, so that we are attracting the attention of the right people. We are engaging with those who can truly deliver. It takes time to craft those things. You can't finish a call and go, I'm on it straight away, hang up the phone, log into Total Jobs and start doing a search. Because you're starting to sell something to people that you haven't fully reflected on to be able to create the right messages. And then when we look at the collateral and we look at how engaged our client is, if the allegations are true, and it's been published in so many different places, there must be an element of truth in it, right? 68% of people, when they leave their job, they don't leave their employer, they leave their manager. People leave their manager, they don't leave their employer. And despite the fact that most recruiters will ask a candidate, hey, why do you want to leave? I doubt whether we hear 68% of the time, manager, 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 because they've all been drinking the Kool-Aid, which is the CV gurus on LinkedIn telling them, come up with positive reasons. Basically, make something up. So even though they might be leaving because of their manager, they say something else like, oh, I've decided I need a new challenge. And because the desire for a new challenge doesn't get challenged, true motive to move doesn't get discovered. So the recruiter ends up selling to the candidate's shadow rather than to the real candidate. But that's another episode, right? So if 68% of people, they leave their manager, not their employer, then what may be more attractive for them in terms of engagement, in terms of attention, if we have a committed client who is serious about hiring and serious about process, let's get the client on a video. I just jump that client into a video meeting and ask them some questions and capture the questions and turn them into micro videos that you can then share with prospective candidates. I know they will enjoy watching a video of a future manager telling them about the project, the technology, the roles, the stuff, the mission, the team, the people, far more than they would enjoy reading the job description that was written by somebody in HR 4 years ago. So when you look at your opportunity to really start to build a marketing campaign, this is where it becomes true recruitment. The real recruitment, the real engagement of people, the real process of building something that is designed to capture people's attention. And when you've got your video of your manager, you've broken that down into 2 or 3 bite-sized clips. You've started to build out your campaign in terms of the messages that you'll be sending on email, that you'll be sending on LinkedIn. You've built out your script as to how you're going to create that initial impression of the business and the instruction that you've got. And then you create your calendar. So you create a calendar to ensure that you've got your window of time as to when you need to have done your interviews completed by, so that we're now getting people booked into the relevant slots. And as we get people booked into the relevant slots, we can head towards the end of this sprint and deliver a campaign that ensures we've covered the marketplace, we've shared the right messages with the right people, we've been tenacious enough to keep going back to be able to ensure that those who initially ignored us, who probably didn't ignore us, they were just busy doing something else and missed the message. We're ensuring that we're being more explicit with the coverage that we're creating, and we've started to build out our own tracking system. And as we build out a tracking system to be able to create a future statement of work, this is what I've done over the last 2 weeks. All of your campaign helps you to create these diary entries. These diary entries help you to be able to track the data. The data that you're tracking starts to provide you with something that gives you your meaningful update with your client, to be able to say, this is where we're at, this is what we've done, this is our expectation, this is where we're up to in the journey, this is where we've positioned things. When you're able to send a link to how you've crafted your advert and where you've positioned it to the client, say, this is how we're presenting you. When you're able to show them, this is how we're using the video content to increase the level of engagement with the audience. This is how many people have watched your video. This is how many people saw it through to the end. This is how many people then subsequently clicked on the link to the advert. This is how many people visited the landing page that we built on your behalf inside our own website to maximize on the traffic that we get as a specialist recruiter in this space. This is what we've done on social channels. And you can start to show methodology, purpose, impact, performance. And as you start to show those things, I know it starts to create the impression with your client that you are different. You are different because you actually follow a process. You are different because you appear to understand what it takes to be able to capture the attention of people and generate engagement. And you appear to be different because you speak far less with adjectives and hyperbole, and you talk about purpose, impact, performance, which gives them more confidence. It means as they head towards that moment that you've agreed as to when you're going to share with them the candidates that you've generated, it sets a feeling of anticipation. When someone has a feeling of anticipation in preparation for a future meeting, they're looking forward to it. They want it to be good. They want you to succeed. Without any of this campaign work, without any of this communication, without having built a process that they can clearly see is designed to engage with people, they don't really have anything to measure. They don't have anything to associate good quality chemistry in their own body with. So they just wait. And because they're just waiting, they're open to being distracted. Distracted by others, speculative CVs, distracted by recommendations internally from other managers. And because they're not primed, because they're not feeling that anticipation, we may lose their attention or part of their attention to somebody else. So there is a structure, there is a skill to building a campaign, breaking down your journey, breaking down your process into a series of sprints so that you can start to deliver piece by piece the experience that will help them to describe you as being different, to describe you as being unique, to describe you as being valuable. Because in a world where the majority of recruiters are still trying to chase and place CVs, they're not particularly engaging with the human beings who are the candidates, they're not particularly engaging with the human beings who are the clients, they're stuck in a transaction trap. And they're stuck in a transaction trap because of how they position themselves or how they have been positioned by their prospects because of a lack of understanding as to where their true value is. So folks, if you feel as though you build campaigns already, I very much love you for it. If you feel as though campaigns would be something you'd be interested in building, I could certainly help you to be able to do that. And if you feel as though the campaigns that you're building there's an opportunity to make them more robust, then I think we should definitely talk. But whatever your thoughts are on what I've covered in this episode, the next time you're being engaged by a customer existing on you and they're giving you a brief, just think about, in real time, as you finish that briefing, what is the work that you do that becomes the platform to help you to get the most out of your outreach? Because if you're bouncing from brief to outreach without enough of a plan, you may find yourself in another 5 or 6 days having to go back to the drawing board and to reassess exactly what you're looking for, because you've started to lose sight of it because of your rush to go and get some CVs. So as always, let me know what you think of the episode. I do love to hear from you all. Until next week, happy recruiting, and I'll see you all again soon.